Yeah, they would have been able to hear us then.
Are you going to tell us
I'm
when we
a
go
retard.
live?
We're live.
Well, we're live. We're going to wait a little bit. Surprise, motherfucker.
They can hear us now, though, right?
I hope not.
I think they can.
I don't think they can.
How do we know?
We don't know.
You got to turn that mic all the way down. We don't know.
This is like my worst nightmare.
Just don't say anything that you'd be upset with.
Who cares? It's all good.
Like, how much time do you think we have?
I don't know. We
It's
got to
time
wait
to go.
until people start showing up, and then we go, hey, everybody.
There are hella people on YouTube.
Oh,
Are we
yeah.
live? Can we look on the restream? Is it going?
We're not live on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, they can definitely hear us. All right, we're live.
Oh my gosh. This is the start to our first podcast. How long were we live?
I don't know, like 30 seconds.
Okay, it's going to be a rough start, all right? No, it's actually great. This is the first episode of our podcast, The Backlash. I want to welcome you all here at this beautiful setup. Mr. Dave Riley, Vince James
Oh,
over
they
here.
said that they can hear us. They were able to hear us the whole time.
Next time we'll do a better job of knowing that we're live. Like, luckily we didn't say anything now, did we?
No, we were good boys and girls.
What should we do first? Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the mission of the podcast, but first, why doesn't everybody introduce themselves, talk about their own platform, and what brought you to the podcast?
Vince?
I'm just here. I was sick as shit last night. I was puking, and I'm here. We made it. I am here, and that is my mission. My mission was to show up here and be able to talk, and I feel like I can do that. So
We're not live on YouTube.
What do you mean we're not live on YouTube?
We're not live on YouTube.
you probably got banned immediately. As soon as they see my face, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
We're going to have to figure this out, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Boomer tech.
Cameron, you want to give a little intro into yourself?
Sure. The Backlash. My name's Cameron McGregor. For those of you who do not know who I am, I have a YouTube channel which is all about neo-masculinity, which is the revolt of young men against the legacy system. I'm an entrepreneur, an investor, and a writer. And I have been asked by Vince and Rebecca to join and hopefully contribute something of substance. So I'm excited to join, and let's see how this goes.
Yep.
So while he's trying to figure out this YouTube thing, if you guys are trying to watch on YouTube, well, you can't hear me, so it doesn't really matter. But I did want to talk a little bit about why we started this podcast. Nobody seems to really give a crap. And I also have totally lost interest in the news, and inexplicably, we'll talk
Hopium.
about
We're smoking
the
Hopium.
smoking the Hopium. I've been thinking about, what is our society going to look like in 10 years? What are we going to do? How can we benefit our people, our families? How can we survive all of this happily? Because we're all still building families and have young kids. And I was thinking about the content that I like to listen to, and I realized that the only person that I'm still listening to is Devin Stack and periodically Nick Fuentes. And so I was like, that's the kind of content that people that are living in reality want to hear. They want to know what our situation is. They want to know how they can improve their lives. And that's the kind of content I wanted to make. So I got together the most interesting people I know so that we can have these roundtable discussions. And here we are today after Dave introduces himself and hopefully gets this YouTube thing fixed.
It says it's live.
Okay,
So
we'll see.
maybe here, let me. It says it's live.
Then we will get a little bit into that. Dave, do you
Anyway,
want to...
so my name is Dave Riley. I am a political activist. I've been an independent journalist for several years now, former radio host. I was one of the first radio hosts in Pennsylvania to endorse Donald Trump in, 2016, I think, which led to a lot of angst. I'm also a volunteer with the local Republican Party. I've been a delegate to the state GOP convention, and I do a lot of activism. So that's kind of my background.
How's the sound, guys, by the way? Let us know in the Rumble live chat. See, no sound now. Some people are saying camera fix.
Oh, jeez.
Whoa, we hear you. Okay. All right, I don't know. In the chat. All right, what do you guys want to talk about? You want to talk about the Hopium? Are we going to...
Oh, okay.
We're fine. We're on YouTube.
It looks like we're on YouTube.
It's
I don't
good.
know why.
It's good.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop watching YouTube.
Stop watching the show live. I mean, come on.
No, but it's saying
we've
that
got
I'm
to
not
do
live
the
here.
content.
I know. This is such a nightmare. This is like these are the things that I have nightmares about when I dream about having a podcast. So I did want to talk a little bit about how we differ.
Good to go. They're saying good to go.
On YouTube?
Yeah, we're good to go everywhere.
How we differ in terms of this recent Trump election. I did not vote. I famously did not vote. Don't believe in voting. I've moved beyond that, and I'm disappointed in Trump because of how he, how the last kind of president that he was. And I'm looking at his appointees, and I'm like, how can anybody be behind this? It's Zionist after Zionist. I don't understand the perspective that he's gonna deport all of these people. They're gonna be mass deportations. Like, why would you guys think that? That is a good place, I think, to start. Let's talk about mass deportations.
When can they start?
Yeah, when are they gonna start?
Day one, right?
No. You think he's actually gonna do this?
Holman is gonna save us all.
Do you remember
Cameron?
He's going to
lock her
deport
up?
he's going to deport the families together.
That would be, I would love that. I would love nothing more than to see giant Mexican families get catapulted over the border. It would.
I don't want the Mexicans to go. The Venezuelans.
They gotta go.
They gotta go.
El Salvador. They all have to go. Okay, you gotta go. But that's not gonna happen. Do you remember lock her up?
Cameron, is it gonna happen?
Not from what I can tell.
Dang it.
Scale, you almost certainly have to have military power and police forces at your disposal. I don't foresee that happening because remember, you have to control the border, which means you have to deploy armed forces to do it in a significant manner. Trump wanted to do that in 2016, 2017. It never happened. There's no reason to believe that it's going to happen this time, especially given the geopolitical mess in Ukraine and the Middle East, which I know we'll get to in a moment as well. So as a preliminary step, I think that's number one. The second is that he hasn't changed materially the structure of the Republican Party. And a lot of the Republican Party, they support illegal immigration. And I see no reason why that will change either. So I'm very skeptical, to say the least. I don't think it's going to happen.
So what are these appointees? Let me see. What are these appointees?
Okay, who do we have? We have Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. I think that is arguably one of the better picks, although she is a stated Zionist. Did you see her with Rabbi Shmuley? She won some sort of award in 2016. She said all sorts
It was
of
a few
things.
years ago. Yeah.
It was a few years ago, but I mean, has she openly? Why is
That's the only thing I don't like about her.
Yeah.
She's like,
I've been hearing
at
stuff,
least
and
Antelope.
I don't know if Cameron knows about this. People keep calling Tulsi a Kremlin agent. Is there any truth to that? Is there any background there?
I don't think so. I think that was just an invective to sort of discredit her. I think Tulsi Gabbard is somebody that does very well on TV. She has a lot of good things from here and there. And Trump seems to have an affinity for people that go on Fox News and have good sound bites. Beyond that, what's her organizational skill set? What's her capacity to run something like the National Intelligence Agency? I don't know. What I can tell you is that appointing people to the heads of these bureaucracies is not enough. You're going to have to completely wipe out the legacy group, the legacy staff that's there, right? I mean, you're going to have to fire people that have been there 10 years or longer to make a dent. Otherwise, everything she wants to do is going to be bottled up by the bureaucrats who are already there. Mm-hmm. And it could also be that a lot of these appointees are just virtue signaling to Trump's base. I fear that that's what's really happening here.
Well, what about that guy, Kash Patel, the Indian guy?
Have you seen his eyes?
Yeah.
He's got like crazy eyes.
Yeah, he's got crazy eyes.
If there's one guy that would go in there and just start ripping things apart, you would expect it to be the guy with crazy eyes.
He's just going to poop all over the Hoover building. He's just going to go in there and just poop all over it. He says he wants to get rid of all the FBI agents at the Hoover building and tell them to go outside and be cops.
Well, right. And I think, doesn't that, send us some donations, please. The backlash.net. You can go to the backlash.net and send Bitcoin and dollars. Okay. It'd be great if we could all have like little laptop setups. Hey, stop watching the show.
What about Matt Gaetz? What about
Matt Gaetz? Matt Gaetz is good. He's one of the few that hasn't taken.
He's also a Zionist. The situation with his 12-year-old Cuban stepson, weird. That was all weird. I mean, I don't care about all of his interstate sex trafficking stuff. That's all fine.
I think that was all bogus.
It was all bogus. But do you find him trustworthy? Do you think that he's going to be?
I think it was
reliable?
one of the better picks.
I think he's one of
the.
That
doesn't mean anything. They were all bad picks.
No, I mean, look, when you look at how much Bill Kristol and the neoconservatives were freaking out at Donald Trump's appointment of both RFK and Matt Gaetz, I think that, frankly, I think that just unpredictable Trump is back, right?
Yes.
I mean, like there's some of these appointments that are very obvious, that are very neoconservative, that we're all not very happy with, but then there are these wild cards like RFK Jr. I mean, Howard Lutnick was on TV like last week saying on, I think it was MSNBC, that there is no way that RFK is ever going to be made the secretary of HHS. And then, boom, there it is.
Right. I have high hopes for him, though. What do you think he's going to get rid of seed oils?
I think that would be good. The seed oil, I mean, he's already done a good job, right? I mean, if you look at the pharmaceutical companies, their stocks have tanked today. They're down like 30, 50%. So that's good. I hope somebody was short.
I think he's the only one that's worth his salt in the administration. I mean, Matt Gaetz, I guess we'll have to wait and see. RFK Jr., I think, is a serious man. He also, based on his family history, he knows the government. He has some sense of what he's up against. I just had hope that he would be Secretary of State instead of Narco Rio. But obviously that's not going to happen. Hell, you could make RFK Jr. both, right? You could put him in charge of both departments as far as I'm concerned. And things like that have happened in the past. So I think he's solid. My question is he going to get support from Trump once he tries to actually implement real change? That remains to be seen.
Trump doesn't
Hey,
seem
you can probably
loyal.
turn him down a little bit if he's in the red, right?
Sure.
Like
Loyal to even the people that are loyal to him, though. And I worry that he lacks integrity. And so he can't recognize integrity in other people. He consistently has a bad group of people around him that are not benefiting him, that are not benefiting the country, and he never drained the swamp. I don't know. I don't understand why you guys think things are going to be different this time. I guess that's my question.
well, he was talking about getting rid of people that have been there for 10 years plus.
Yes.
That's what Schedule F is about, right? See if he does it.
Do you think he's going to?
We'll see.
This is just hopium. I'm
Well,
just
I
telling
mean,
you
it's
to
better
be
than Kamala
realistic.
for sure. I mean, there's absolutely no chance that the J6ers are going to get released under Kamala.
Right. There's no chance of a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
There's no chance of immigration, anything happening. In fact,
It would get
probably have
worse.
like 20 million under
But
Kamala, right?
Stephen Miller, he's deputy chief of staff, and didn't he create that entire fund to get January 6ers out and then just use it as a way to control free speech on campuses?
I've never heard of that.
I've
Stephen
heard
Miller?
that.
Yeah.
The Jewish
I've heard good things from Steve
I
Miller.
think it was, what was it called? America First Legal.
Yeah, America First Legal. They've done some good stuff.
Have they gotten anybody from January 6th out of jail?
No.
Because they
I
just
don't
turned
know.
it. They just turned it on campuses and then just made it a thing
When do
about
they have?
trying to stop people from
They
talking
have?
about
I thought
Zionism.
it was a thing to stop discrimination against white people.
No, Steve Miller's Jewish.
Yeah. No kidding.
You say stop
Yeah, no,
discrimination
Yes.
against white people?
Yes,
don't
that
believe
was the
they've
whole
done
point
anything
of America
about
First
getting
Legal
those
was
people out.
if you were discriminated against because you were white or called a white supremacist or all these different kinds of things. I'm pretty sure that there have been cases where America First Legal has even pitched in up here. They've been very good.
I'm going to have to see a proficient track record before I truly,
I,
rudely interrupt you.
I think you're right, Rebecca. I don't think that I don't believe that Trump has committed to getting those people. And you're exactly right. He has a poor track record of being faithful to people that have supported him, and others, and they're still very loyal to Donald Trump. So he's got some tests that he's got to pass to demonstrate that he's different than last time. That being said, he has an opportunity right out of the gate to de-escalate tensions overseas with Russia and to withdraw forces from the Middle East.
yeah.
I don't think he's going to do either. Okay. And immediately that puts him in harm's way, not just embroiling the United States into wars we shouldn't fight, but it's something as an executive he can do right away. He can take steps immediately to de-escalate. As far as I understand, he hasn't done that yet.
So you don't anticipate that he's going to de-escalate the situation with Russia?
It does not appear as though the foreign policy establishment, which is dominated by AIPAC and the neoconservatives, that they more or less switch sides and back Donald Trump in this election. That's a very alarming sign to me. And what that tells me is that at a minimum, Donald Trump is going to continue to support the escalation of Israel against Iran in the Middle East. It also suggests to me that he will not place a phone call with Vladimir Putin, come to some kind of an agreement and give Ukraine neutrality. The other issue here is that we economically are in perilous trouble. And I don't think people realize what's going on. I just read an article by Zero Hedge. It said that the deficit grew by, and interest rates are rising as we speak. So as got wars overseas that are getting worse, and he's got a domestic fiscal and I think an economic crisis that's inflaming at home. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't have a lot of time to waste here. He's got to get to work for his own benefit.
Right. And he needs to do something for the people that have put so much on the line for him immediately. He needs to pay that back. And I think his track record of doing that is poor. And I'm concerned that he's going to forget about everybody immediately. Assange comes to mind.
Well, I can't help but want to push back and smoke some more hopium here, because I saw a tweet earlier today, and we're having technical difficulties. I can't get the tweet up, but there was a tweet earlier today that I saw from Rabbi Shmuley Boteach.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And he was extremely upset that Elon Musk had apparently been conducting some sort of offline negotiations with Iran to try and de-escalate the situation. And that came out today, that Elon had been in direct talks with somebody over in Iran. That's good.
Who?
I don't know. But the idea,
Random Iranian.
the idea
It's
that
just some guy walking his goat, yeah.
right. But the idea that Elon Musk is attempting on his own volition to seek peace, that he's attempting to reach out with an olive branch and be like, okay, how do we not go to World War III?
That is a ballsy move.
It's ballsy, and it kind of shows
Are
that.
you trying to get a cheaper Starlink?
Well, as a matter of fact, this show is brought to you by Starlink. They're running a special right now, $199 at Costco. You can go pick them up today. But no,
Well,
I mean, those are the kinds of things that I look at. Where
look, I think Elon Musk would have been better served to fly to Jerusalem and meet with Bibi Netanyahu, who at the same time as Donald Trump did, appoint Israel Katz as his new defense minister. And his new defense minister said there will be no ceasefire with Hezbollah. And what does that mean? That means there will be no de-escalation with Iran. Now, yeah, I know Elon went to Israel previously, but really what needs to happen is Donald Trump has to rein in Netanyahu. And again, at least according to Netanyahu, they've already spoken multiple times, and Donald Trump is going to give him the full support of the U.S. government to do whatever he wants. That's a very alarming sign.
But that's already what's happening, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Israel's just allowed to do whatever they want.
Yeah, except that, and this is something you and I spoke about, I want to say a month or two ago, Vince. The only real criticism, the only real pushback on AIPAC comes from the left. It does not come from the right, okay? And it hasn't for some time. This is some insight into why I think Donald Trump's victory was as clear as it was. I think AIPAC and their machine switched sides because they felt Trump was a more reliable partner to prosecute their war against Iran.
Yes,
right?
And how many of these picks were AIPAC funded and approved picks? Rubio, for sure.
The only one that isn't is
I don't
Matt
think
Gaetz.
Rubio is actually in there yet, right?
He is now, I think.
The only person that has been announced for the cabinet that has not taken money from AIPAC is Matt Gaetz.
That is it.
And Homan, too.
I don't know about Homan.
Homan's never gotten money from AIPAC.
I mean, he's not really a politician, so.
But with Homan, they didn't even give him an actual position. I think they made up some bureaucratic moniker to make him the border czar, whatever the hell that means. It's another ineffectual title that doesn't do anything. Again, my concern is that Donald Trump he's a marketing guy. He's P.T. Barnum. He's a very effective communicator at virtue signaling for the right. But if you look at the details of what he does, it doesn't mirror with what we all want, which is an America First agenda.
Right. And there is a silver lining in that you can predict the behavior of somebody that is a populist. But if he's not making integrity-based decisions, then how can we even get anything that we want out of him? That's why I don't understand your position. I mean, I understand that it feels good to be hopeful, but this is not 2016. He already has a track record of being a disappointment, and I want people to prepare appropriately for the presidency, but nobody really wants to hear it. Everybody they want their feelies, and they want to talk about how things are going to be great and how this is a remnant of 2016. This is not the same, and we all need to get ready. Are you laughing?
I am laughing at you.
Trump did
Why?
great last time.
Did he?
If
did
he
okay.
if he does 5% and doesn't do the 100% of what the Democrats were going to do, if he only does 5%,
Why? What if the Democrats
No,
got things
no
so
president
bad?
is ever gonna give you like, unless it's king like Nick Fuentes. Like,
No,
no
but
president is ever gonna.
what I'm asking for is not that much. I want to divorce us from Israel. That is the number one.
That's never
thing.
gonna happen.
There's no way that can never happen.
Literally never,
Why?
unless Iran blows them up with a nuke.
See, unless
I mean, what would
It's
be nice
literally
is if
never
it would be nice if the American administration would actually like be. It's really interesting when you like. I listen to Jonathan Pollard's podcast like pretty
He's got a
religiously.
podcast.
Yeah, actually, it's with Machon Shiloh Synagogue in Tel Aviv.
Seriously?
Yeah, it posts about every night, about almost midnight. It's him and Rabbi David Bar Haim. I watch it like religiously, just so I know what their perspective is on this thing. And I just totally lost my train of thought.
you've been watching this podcast.
Jonathan
and-
Pollard.
Jonathan
He was,
Pollard.
for those who don't know, by the
He's-
way, which one are they seeing?
They're
Which-
seeing the one on the right.
Okay. So Jonathan Pollard, for those who don't know, spied on the U.S., stole our secrets, passed it to Israel, got arrested, got out of jail, then was given a red carpet hero's welcome in Israel at Ben Gurion Airport by Bibi Netanyahu. He was given a permanent salary for the rest of his life, and you know, this is a hated enemy of the U.S., right? And this is
So I watch his
supposedly our greatest-
podcast.
and he has a
probably
podcast
really smart.
apparently.
So I watch his
Right.
podcast on the reg. Anyway, what he's been talking about, which is really interesting, is that he believes that the American government has totally taken control of the Israeli government, right? And that they don't have the right to self-determination. That we are that Joe Biden is forcing our agenda down their throats. That's
Wow,
that's
the
how they're
pot calling the kettle
that's
black,
how they view it. That's how
They
they
cannot possibly believe that.
that's how they think it is.
There's no way they believe
They
that.
really believe that the funding that we're sending them is preventing them from prosecuting the war.
Are
that
you
they
sure
want.
that this isn't some kind of
They-
double play where
no,
they're
no, no.
trying to convince
no,
Goy?
because right in Israel that killed Yitzhak Rabin for seeking peace with the Palestinians. That's what happened. And now the far right, which Jonathan Pollard is a member of, is actively seeking to get the link between Israel and America cut so that Israel can do whatever they want without having us looking down their necks, how we're using our weapons,
course.
as if we do that. I don't think we actually do that. I think that we give them pretty much whatever they want,
Right.
indiscriminately. But it's interesting to see the perspective that they have.
Do you think this is going to inform their foreign policy decisions?
100%.
Seriously?
I believe
Were
so.
you aware of this?
I did not know that Jonathan Pollard had a podcast, but I was aware of that the take that the Israelis have. Yes, a lot
So-
of Israelis think that.
Yeah, I mean,
Look, in every country there are different perceptions of what is going on politically in the other, right? It's not unique for all kinds of bizarre views in China or in Russia about DC and vice versa. That doesn't mean it's reality, however. And what's important to note is that the Israelis know without a shadow of a doubt that they cannot fight against Hezbollah, they cannot fight against Hamas, and they cannot fight against Iran without the United States. So if they know that, they are not going to take aggressive stances the way they have. They're not going to launch attacks. They're not going to strike Iran directly, as they've already begun to do, unless they had guarantees that the U.S. military would support them. Now, how did they get those guarantees? Well, they got them when Netanyahu came to the United States last summer, and he was treated like a hero by both parties who gave him 40 standing ovations. Netanyahu knows U.S. politics very well. He's very well connected here. He understands the U.S. government probably better than Donald Trump does, and his influencers dominate the entire government. They certainly dominate the military-industrial complex. And because of that, we are going to be involved in this. Now, I do want to go back real quick to something that Rebecca said. Everybody assumes that AIPAC or that the United States and Israel, that our destinies are intertwined. I do not believe so. if you look carefully at American history, what the American people have consistently said is that we want non-interventionism. Why has that not happened? Because they haven't been directly affected by the war machine overseas. Mm-hmm. Well, this is quite different. If Israel does provoke a regional war in the Middle East, the United States, which is already in a fragile economic position, will suffer consequences for that. And questions will be asked. And I think there will be a lot of blowback on Donald Trump, hence the name of our podcast. There will be a lot of backlash against him because we will feel the effects. Never mind the fact that there could also be terrorist attacks, among other asymmetric strikes against the United States. This is a very different environment that we're in than we were 20 years ago when we were toppling regimes in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. That world is gone. Today, the stakes are higher.
That's definitely true. But what about these this giant group of Trump loyalists? They're just intractable. I think that building the wall is a good example. People are like, well, he was blocked by Congress. He couldn't do anything. I'm like, well, what's the point of putting all of your faith in a president that's unable to do anything? I'm not acting like it's a personal failing of his, although he has many. But I think it's possible that people think that the president is far more effective, far more powerful than he actually is, and everybody needs to keep that in mind.
You're right, but there's an important distinction to make, and this might be the key takeaway that we have to focus on. Donald Trump was elected president in 2016 primarily because of immigration. Uh-huh. People were pissed off at the system.
Yes.
They wanted the corruption to stop, but it was immigration that pushed him over the top. This time is different. He was elected because the economy is a mess. People are living paycheck to paycheck. People are struggling. If he doesn't clean up the economy, he will be blamed for this, and he's got to get on it quickly. He made a lot of promises this time, and I think he's put himself in a deep hole as a result.
But how could he even do that? I mean, the policies that are affecting our economy go back decades and decades. I don't know if in one term he's going to be able to make a meaningful change in all of our lives. That's why I think he was allowed to be elected.
It's going to get worse.
That's where we start smoking the hopium again, because I think he can.
How?
Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I know I don't want to turn this into like a giant, Bitcoin podcast, and I know that all of my friends.
Please donate Bitcoin.
Please donate Bitcoin.
Backlash.net.
And you guys both know that I've been freaking out about Bitcoin for like 4 years.
Yeah,
I
didn't buy into it, but now I think I buy into it.
If Donald Trump does make Bitcoin a strategic reserve asset, and if the SEC does get a new, I think Gary Gensler resigned today just in protest. What can happen is the money printer can turn on and feed itself directly into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin can absorb all of those dollars. There's literally no end to how high Bitcoin can go. So if the U.S. government sets aside a reserve of 1 million Bitcoin, that is going to cause the price of Bitcoin to increase. It's going to cause the amount of wealth that our government has to increase. And then we can use that Bitcoin, once it has appreciated in value, and sell it back to the Treasury to pay off the debt. Like, it can happen. It's possible.
My problem.
There's a couple things there. The first is that the market cap, the entire size of the crypto industry, is about $2 trillion. It's very small.
It crossed 3 trillion this week. But yes,
3 trillion.
It is small.
Yeah.
Compared to what is it, 90 trillion? I mean,
gold is $18 trillion by market cap. All right.
Right.
Now, the U.S. government officially on paper has a debt of about 36 trillion. However, in terms of unfunded liabilities, we have over $100 trillion, and we have year over year $2 trillion in deficits, at least. That's at a minimum. That's based on no recessions, no economic downturns. Now, that's the first issue, is that the size of Bitcoin, yes, it's elastic to some degree, but it's just too small at the moment. The federal government would completely have to change its spending posture. That's the first thing. The second thing is that even if Bitcoin were used like gold, even if we repeg to gold, for example, that would cause a deflationary effect, meaning that basically the value of all assets would collapse. That would cause a depression in the United States. Now, I think we're going to get there either way, but when you revalue in an asset that's deflationary like Bitcoin or gold, you're going to boomers who really represent the tax base of the United States, worth about $55 trillion. That's because most of their money is in real estate and it's in the stock market. Putting our money supply in Bitcoin would collapse those values. It would collapse in gold as well. So I don't see that as a viable solution.
But in the meantime, is it a good way for white people to get rich?
What, Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If
It's
you
at
buy
90,
it
it's at
low
90,000, isn't it?
if you buy
Yeah,
it low
it's hovering
enough,
about-
right? No, I think
Well,
it's went back
I mean,
down
I'm
again.
a
Oh, good.
bull. I think it's going to keep going up. I think it's.
I sold my Bitcoin to pay off my house, and now every time I just can't look at
If
it.
you had kept it, you could have done like a Bitcoin.
I don't want
loan.
la 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 la.
I'm just
I can't
saying.
talk about it.
It's at 88 right now, but it's gonna break 100.
88, yeah.
It'll break 100K by the end of the year, easy.
Listen, Dave, I'm a big advocate for Bitcoin. I talk about it a lot on my YouTube channel, and I think it's going to be part of the financial architecture for reasons that, other than the wars overseas, the immediate crisis that Trump has to deal with right now is the fiscal debt. Now, if you notice, when he was elected, interest rates on U.S. Treasury bonds, on U.S. government debt, went up, and the reason for that is because Donald Trump has not proposed any meaningful spending cuts whatsoever. Nothing. His plan is basically to cut taxes and hope that America's growth machine will solve our debt crisis. It's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because, structurally speaking, the U.S. economy is a mess. That's the reason he was elected. People are hurting. The middle class is battered. I don't see how he can deal with that unless he decides to take a sledgehammer to entitlements. And it seems Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, with their new Department of Government Efficiency, aren't even discussing those
Right.
programs.
That's definitely true.
Vivek and Kash Patel come together to save America.
America, I know.
We can hope.
No, absolutely not. Everybody was so on the Vivek train. I think Ann Coulter was the only one that was like, but he's not white. He's not white. Like, what's the... I think she was interviewing Vivek, wasn't she?
I don't know.
I know she's been out of the game for a long time, but I heard that and I was like, good for you.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
she did say that. And I don't understand the enthusiasm for him either. Every time he talks, it's just talking point after talk. He's like Tulsi Gabbard. It's just an end.
I don't know if that's true. Is that true?
Yeah.
Because I know they say that about Tulsi too, right?
Yeah.
Don't they say
What
that?
is his net worth? I think it's $500 million, maybe more.
Yeah, he's in the tens of millions, if I remember correctly. And I don't know how he made all that money either.
I think it was pharmaceuticals.
Oh,
Pharmaceutical? Yeah.
okay, great. So let's get this
Big-
Indian
Yeah, I'm pretty sure-
libertarian to
wasn't-
save America.
Actually, I do think wasn't Vivek invested in mRNA stuff before in the before time?
I know he made it in
Oh no,
some
he's
way.
worth $1 billion.
He's a billionaire.
Now he is, at least.
He made it in some way that
One day
I
ago.
heard
Who's
it and I was
Vivek
like,
Ramaswamy? Cincinnati billionaire.
Well, let's look at some
That's
of the other
crazy.
appointees. Okay.
Wait, here, I got this. America First Legal, a Trump-aligned group, is spoiling for a fight. The group, headed by the former Trump advisor Stephen Miller, has filed more than 100 legal actions against woke companies and others, but winning may be beside the point. So
No, it's not beside the point. It's
Mo-
the only point. That's
right,
the point.
no, I know, but that's what they're so this
New York
article
Times.
is saying that he sued a bunch of companies for discriminating against white people.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Stephen Miller.
I like Stephen Miller.
Yeah, I think he's
Stop being racist, Rebecca.
Yeah, but why not
I'm
get those?
anti-
Why
He
wouldn't
can't
that
be
be your first
trusted.
priority?
Sorry, what's that, Cameron?
Why wouldn't it be your first priority to get those people who are wrongfully imprisoned out? That would be that should be step one. Should
Yes.
it
the
not?
J6ers. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I would say
course.
he'd be successful if he got those guys out.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them, right? And he did something about immigration and something about the foreign wars. I would
but
consider
what
that
is
a-
this something
As long as you would
about
keep us
immigration?
out of the foreign wars. That's all that I want.
Listen,
I just want no part of it.
I'm concerned that people voted for Trump, that conservatives voted for Trump, and now they're like, I've done my part, so
We're
I
gonna
can
go back to sleep.
So I can go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Kamala became president and gas prices, skyrocketed, everybody still couldn't afford groceries, maybe white people would develop some kind of consciousness. Like I don't understand. People are going to go back to the blue pill. They're going to go back to sleep because they're like, I did my part. I voted for Trump. Not even aware that he's a Zionist. I don't think people know.
No, I think people know. People
If
know.
the economy doesn't improve, if the economy does not improve, people are going to wake up, and they're going to wake up very quickly. Look, you can't tell people as soon as you elect me, things are going to improve. Your inflation costs are going to come down. You're going to find jobs. This is what he told people.
Mm-hmm.
It's very dangerous to make those kinds of promises when people are hurting. A lot of people in the United States are hurting today. I don't think it's properly understood. I mean, for Christ's sakes, you can go to any major city across this country and see tent cities everywhere. I used to live in San Diego, California. I was there a couple years ago. There are blocks of home. Country is hurting. He's got to deliver. If he doesn't, there's going to be trouble. No question about it.
Well, I hope.
What does deliver look like?
He's got to get so number one, he's got to get control of the fiscal spend. He's got to get control of that, and I don't see that happening. Right. Number two is he's got to get the economy growing again. That's going to be very difficult too. So that's what it looks like. He's got to get the economy growing again and inflation down. The CPI report that just came out showed that inflation's ticking back up again. And remember, that's the inflation rate.
Mm-hmm.
People are already paying outrageous amounts for groceries. I don't know if you guys see it. I've been outside the United States. I feel it in Argentina, Mexico. The cost of groceries to bring these prices down. He's got to deliver. If he doesn't, you're going to see a lot of pissed off people, and it's not going to take that long either.
Well, that's probably why they allowed him to be elected, because they know that this is going to destroy the middle class, and they're going to be like, well, it was on Trump's dime.
Why wouldn't? But the middle class was destroyed under Kamala as well.
People have a short memory, though, and if the bottom really falls out of this,
I think the middle class
way,
is getting destroyed regardless.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably true. I just don't have any faith that this was a true election after 2020.
And I also think that there's an element of this though that's like a little bit too much like focused on a president, like voting for a president, and then your life changes.
Yes.
Like that's not what happens. That is not how this works. You have to work.
Local politics are more important.
Local politics are way more.
Well,
I mean,
people in America
this go around.
Understand this.
Sorry about that. No,
that was red. That was red.
Oops. No, but this go around, I really didn't even pay attention to the national elections. I was completely focused on the local stuff because that's where the rubber meets the road for me and my family anyway. I mean, the past 4 years have sucked. We're poor, but it's not. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to put it.
I understand. I mean, I think that point is well taken. People used to understand that the president wasn't capable of affecting their lives that much. Like Calvin Coolidge came in, nobody remembers him.
Right.
And all he did, he was lauded as a great president. All he did was he just, did what he could to reinforce states' rights, and he kicked his feet up and did nothing for the duration of his presidency, and it was awesome. And that's what a president should do. There's this idea that when you're president, you have to go in there, you've got to reform, you've got to take things over. And we need that now because we have an impenetrable bureaucracy that needs to be systematically destroyed.
Amen.
But in a functional government, the president just needs to come in, protect the individual rights, protect local governments, protect states' rights, and then, fuck off. And that's it. And then he goes back to his civilian life. It was never supposed to be like this.
Well, yeah, if he returns a bunch of stuff to the states, that'd be good. Like he did with abortion, right, with the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
he did.
Did Vince eat a bunch of gummies before the show? No, I'm like sick.
If you guys must know, we have norovirus on the show.
And I'm about to get it. So
he's about to get it.
Thanks.
That's for sure.
So we're not super high energy. It's been a rough start, but every episode 1 is kind of a rough start. So I figured
not bad.
I figured that this would
Did
happen.
you guys hear that Onion bought InfoWars?
I did. Is this true?
I don't think it's true.
Why?
You don't think it's true?
Well, didn't Alex Jones put out a video like immediately after saying that it's not true that the Onion did it because there was another offer and they wound up accepting not the highest offer, which is against their fiduciary responsibility to the parents of the Sandy Hook families. So supposedly there was something going on where the judge this morning at an emergency hearing was like really upset with the way that the prosecution conducted the estate sale. And I'm hopeful that it's not over, that maybe he'll get to keep his network. I don't know.
Well, it says here, this is AP.
The headlines have been written, absolutely, but the fact that the judge had done something after the fact, all the stories about this, it's already a done deal. The media knows. Okay. And the judge was like really upset about that because it's his call, it's not the media's call.
Right. So they have a fiduciary responsibility to take the highest bidder. Who was the highest bidder?
I believe the highest bidder was one of Alex's friends.
Well, someone says that they offered $3.5 million.
That's it?
Yeah.
Cameron, do you know anything about this? This is news to me.
I don't. News to me.
Man, what a joke. Poor Alex. You got to feel for the guy.
I love him.
Everybody's like, he's controlled opposition. I'm like, that might be true, but he really has given up a lot.
And he has
just
done
lost everything.
He lost everything.
He's lost everything, and he has woken people up. I mean, I can't tell you how many people, like even my own family, where it's like, you know, I've been through some cancellation stuff, like pretty hard. And you would think that my family would know and understand what's going on. And like just 2 years ago, my uncle called my dad and was like, "Have you ever heard of this Alex Jones guy?" And it's like, it's 2022. You've never heard of Alex Jones before,
yeah.
Right.
But really, this is happening. I mean, like people think that everybody kind of knows what they know and thinks the way that they think, but that's not true. People are all over the place right now
100%.
because we no longer have this kind of central media establishment telling us what to believe. Where,
now we get the internet
where
now, yeah.
CBS and NBC are all saying the same thing. And it's been like 4 years like this where the alternative media has really put a dent in the mainstream narrative. So
But I also
even with all the censorship.
even with the censorship, right?
I
Right.
worry that
Look,
we're
I-
in our own little bubble.
I think the censorship has helped us.
Yeah.
I think it's actually awakened a lot of people because they don't understand why certain topics are taboo,
Yep.
why certain subjects are things we can't discuss and talk about and debate. So I actually think the opposite. The other thing is, look, we can bash on Trump. You know, Vince is right. Politics is the art of the possible. Although, you know, when you get to these sort of emergency events, all of a sudden, all things that can go wrong will go wrong. And that's my fear for Trump. That being said, let's give people a bit of a break. A lot of people did support him. And why do they support him? They support him because they know that immigration is a mess. They know there's too many foreigners in the country. They know the government is completely corrupt. They know that we are involved in wars that we should not fight. So at a minimum, they understand this. Their sense of optimism is born of the fact that they just don't know how rotten the system really is. They're going to find out. They're going to be very, very pissed off. I don't know if you guys remember Risky Business. There's a famous scene in Risky Business with Tom Cruise at the end.
In his
in which
socks, when he comes through in his socks and he slides on the floor, that one?
The pimp says to
Oh.
Tom Cruise. So as I said, I think his election is a good thing. Whether or not Donald Trump succeeds, that's another matter. Obviously, we don't think he will. But either way, people are waking up. And if things go from bad to worse, I think their sense of action, of activism, is going to intensify to a level I don't think anybody believes right now.
Well, that's reassuring. I mean, how bad do you think things have to get on a day-to-day? How bad? Is it just the loss of bread and circuses, or can they just not pay for food? Is that going to be it?
You sort of hear this in Dave's commentary, is that we're fighting a battle we can't win. We're playing a game that's rigged against us. It's called the two-party system, right? So we thought Trump was different. But ultimately, what did he do? Assimilating Trump. Trump's not assimilating the Republican Party or destroying it or changing it. They're just assimilating him. What that should inform us is that we need a new party. We need a new movement. And such a thing can happen and is scalable. How do we know? We've already seen it in recent history. We saw it in 2010 with the Tea Party, which was largely started by Glenn Beck. We see it in the America First movement, not MAGA, but the American First movement, which is led by people like Vince and Nick Fuentes and others. That's a real movement. It has real substance and depth. It's the leading edge of what is to come. And as I said, as people suffer more, and what does that suffering look like? It looks like they lose their pensions. It looks like they can't pay their bills day over day, or that government programs in mass are cut. We are close to something like that happening. And as I said, I think people are going to react very strongly when that occurs.
And yeah, if the boomers have all their money in real estate and stock market, right? If the real estate market goes belly up and the stock market goes belly up, then they lose all of their wealth.
What do you think? Do you think we can look to Argentina, perhaps, and what Javier Milei was doing down there as kind of like a premonition of what might happen here, since they seem to be on the same team? Like, isn't that the kind of stuff that was going on in Argentina, right? Like inflation just soared. It went absolutely sky high for several months. I believe he like laid people off en masse, government workers. There was riots in the streets. It was a mess. I think it's calmed down now, but I'm curious your take.
Milei is taking strident action to reduce government corruption. in Argentina. That's true. But Argentina is a very different country than the United States. There's a lot of socialism. There's a lot of activity. So basically organized crime bosses that run industries down in Argentina.
So it's just like
That
America.
being,
It's open
that being
corruption,
said,
though.
we have a real advantage in the United States. And that is that if you look historically, the countries that are not revolutionary, that don't do anything, are poor countries because they've always been poor. So the prospect that life will improve never occurs to them. Okay. However, the United States has been a rich country. Now, whether it's wealth because we're all spending ourselves to death on credit cards or not, Americans are accustomed to eating well, to living well, to having what they demand as a high standard of living. If that is taken from them, they are going to get very, very pissed off. And ultimately, I think that's where we're headed. If you want to understand America, listen to Monday Sports Talk Radio after your local football to apply politically. We're just not there yet because people think Trump can fix everything. That's, to some degree, that's the illusion that's holding people back from taking real action. But it's coming.
That is exactly how I feel. And so in many ways, I was disappointed when he was elected because I'm like, all right, 4 more years of me having to repeat that he didn't do what was promised, that he's unable to do it, that he's a Zionist while everybody dumps on me for not being mega tarded enough. God, 4 more years of that. Have you been listening to Devin Stack recently? He's all pissed off too.
Is he?
You haven't been listening to Devin?
I don't listen to podcasts.
It's the only podcast. And Vince.
Yeah, I like his
Every
show.
now and again, I listen to Vince.
I like his show.
I like Devin. We actually we were able to. I think it was 2020.
We should have him on.
Yeah.
We should. We should.
Yeah.
We should have a lot of really good guests on this show. But it was funny in 2020 when like all the January 6th crap was going on. I had just gotten my ham radio. I have an ICOM 7300, and so I was texting with Devin, and I was like, "Hey, you want to like try to like make contact real quick?"
Yeah.
And we did. And we
way.
actually talked to each other over ham. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, he's big into
It was
that
it was
stuff, the ham
faint
radio.
because
Yeah.
my antenna setup is not it's not on par, but maybe soon.
Hey, well,
Maybe we'll syndicate this on ham. We'll just start,
that
you know,
would be excellent for the 4 people that are able to listen to it. Yeah.
all 4 people up in the mountains.
The movie review of American Beauty was so good. He really takes the joy out of all those films.
My favorite one was the Pleasantville.
Oh yeah,
It's called The Boomer Deception.
yeah. There were lots of boomer deception
Pleasantville
films.
that was a good one.
That was a good one, yeah.
You also did the one Coming Home, right? I think you did a review of Coming Home and Office
you
Space
did,
was
yeah.
probably. Yeah. Anyway, those are the good old days.
The
I'm
good
not
old
black
days.
pilled. I'm white pilled.
Why? Well,
I am
I'm
red.
actually white pilled too.
I'm white pilled.
I'm yellow.
We'll see what
pilled.
happens. I think he'll do some good stuff.
I'm hopeful.
But
He's
I
not
don't.
gonna
I
do
don't.
everything, but
This
I
is
think he'll
this is
do-
a fake white pill, though. I'm actually white pilled because I'm like, all right, as society emerges in a new way and we have to rebuild it, we can rebuild it in the way that
Yeah,
we want.
I think the economy is going to crash. I think Cameron's right about that. I think there's going to be a big crash.
There is another angle of this thing that's interesting, and I don't know if Cam has looked into this. Do you remember a couple of months ago, in front of the Donald Trump, the trial in New York? Cameron, do you remember there was a guy that like lit himself on
oh
fire
yes, yeah.
in front of the trial?
Yeah.
He had a Substack, and he wrote a bunch of really, really schizo stuff
Yeah.
about how Donald Trump was going to win the presidency
Yeah.
and then turn America into a giant crypto casino and
It
crash
was like
the
lucid. It was lucid schizo posting though.
And it's like, you know, you kind of look at what's happened over the past couple of months and you go back and you read it and you're like, wait a minute. I mean, he was clearly mentally ill because he killed himself, but not all mentally ill people are psychotic.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like you can pick up on a couple. I
in
don't know.
between the just the madness, he would say something that was so profound and lucid. I was like, what is this?
Yeah. And then you go back to like doing some goofy leftist nonsense.
Yeah,
but,
that was really bizarre.
yeah.
God rest his soul. Well, let's talk about some more of these picks. I did want to talk about that. Okay, ambassador to the UN.
Stefanik, right?
Yes. She has had daily Twitter updates on the plight of Israelis every day for the last 400 days.
Wait, can we bring up the video of Pete Hegseth?
Yes.
Can you bring that video up or no?
I can try.
Department of Defense.
hold on a minute.
Which video?
The one where he's
With
like,
his shirt off?
hold on, let me see. No, not that one.
Let's see if I can get in here.
He's a disaster. Fox and Friends. He said, I've come to really appreciate the Jewish heritage and the Jewish state. I understand how geopolitically we're linked and how critical it is that we stand by a strong ally.
Where is it? This
Such a
one,
strong
right?
ally.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And he's at the King David Hotel,
Right.
which is where the bombing happened. Yeah,
But
that's
you
kinda
see,
concerning.
I've got a friend who was,
There was no sound in that video.
Oh, great.
Oh, no.
Well, can we get a bit of a recap from Vince?
Well,
on
he
that?
just
Basically,
he
he
was like
said-
1917 was a miracle.
He said 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a
48, yeah.
miracle,
67.
67 was a miracle.
2017.
And then he suggested that there would be another miracle
rebuild the temple.
that would allow them to rebuild
Yeah.
the third temple. He said he didn't know how it would happen or when it would happen, but that it could happen.
How
and
can you
that
have
they're ready
faith
for
in,
it.
in this administration?
Well,
Is it the deportations? Like if he launches 5 million people out of this country, are you guys going to be like, well, that was a win?
you know, he's
course.
gonna be very not
would be a
happy
win.
probably with me.
We
for
need to
doing
get
this.
40 million people out of this country.
So listen,
That'd be awesome.
there's a guy. He's from Boise, really good guy. He's gonna hate that I'm doing this, but I'm gonna do it. Dan McKnight. He's the head of an organization called Defend the Guard. They actually drafted and helped pass our foreign policy in the Idaho Republican Party platform, which is like the best in the nation, hands down, America first, all the way. And so anyway, Dan McKnight wrote that part of our platform. He's the head of the Defend the Guard, and he came out and said that he completely supports Hegseth. And this guy is, my friend Dan, is 100% anti-war, anti-interventionist, does not want war with Iran, knows exactly what the stakes are. And so for me looking at it, it's like I see everybody in the media freaking out that Hegseth is going to blow up Al-Aqsa, and then I've got real people that I'm actually friends with that are anti-war spoke at the Stop the War rally in D.C., and he is supporting Hegseth.
yeah, but why?
That's why I don't know. I don't know why. Other than I don't think Dan McKnight's a liar, and I
Well,
think
he's
that
probably drunk on
Wait, what is his
Trump juice.
position?
I don't know.
What is his position?
Hegseth, SecDef.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, so I,
man.
And so I'm just saying that
Go ahead.
I'm hopeful that some of the people that I know that know him think that he is going to do what we want. I don't know if that's real. I don't know.
But
if,
why would they think that? I mean, I'm not seeing any evidence. The only thing I'm seeing is people being willfully blind and lulled into a position where they don't have to do anything for the next 4 years. And I hate that. I hate everything about that.
Yeah, if you think that, you are wrong. And
But I'm not seeing any evidence.
Cameron, what did you want to say?
So yeah, I think Dave, I love you, brother, and I appreciate the optimism. To be sure, but I think you've got THS, Trump Hopium syndrome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to coin that as we speak. Look, I don't think the pick is overly significant. He's not going to do very much. Ultimately, whether we escalate or get into a war, that's going to depend on Donald Trump. That being said, these picks look to me like they're just kickbacks to AIPAC. It's basically Trump saying, hey, thanks for getting me elected, so I'm going to reward you by putting these people in power. The only saving grace here is that I don't think Donald Trump wants a war anywhere, but he's got to take steps. He's got to proactively engage to have talks with Putin, to talk down Netanyahu and so forth. And that's where I think he's going to fail. I don't think he's going to do that. He seems to dither when it takes real effort to get us across the finish line. This is why I'm skeptical of his immigration effort as well. Look, he could have built the wall. He didn't. He didn't see it through, okay? That's Donald Trump. He doesn't see things through. But ultimately, whether we go to war or not, that's not going to be up to the defense secretary. That's up to the president. It's up to Trump.
Yep.
So we're not getting a wall?
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. We're not getting a wall?
Okay, what about Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor?
I've heard bad things about him.
I think
Yeah.
he was Cheney's former aide, wasn't he?
Whose?
I think he was Dick Cheney's former
great.
staffer.
Great.
Oh,
We need more computers. If you could go to the backlash.net and send us a donation so that we can get some more computers in here so
Yeah, I
we
think
can
you
all
gotta
have a
do,
little...
I think you got to do. You got to do some sort of audio. You've got to add something to the audio so that people can hear the videos we play. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to have to do
We're
that.
going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Everybody know this is our first
This
episode.
is our first episode,
so
rough and
it
tumble.
will only get better.
People
We've
are
been-
saying that it's lagging too. I don't know.
We've been
I don't know.
planning.
Maybe this is the videos.
We've been planning this for like a month,
Yeah.
and then I didn't realize that it was actually happening until a week ago. So that's when I actually started like working. But
No, it's
It'll be
okay.
fun.
Every episode one of every podcast I've ever seen has largely been a disaster. So
this is better than that.
this is better than a disaster, and that's all I
doing
could ever
pretty
have
well.
hoped for. I think it's doing pretty well. Mike Waltz, I've only heard bad things, military vet, and then I copied this from the Stormer. I can't possibly say what that said, and I'm gonna go ahead and delete that.
People are saying it's lagging, but I don't know.
I
What does
think
lagging mean?
It's okay.
Rubber
the video's
banding?
lagging, but the
Yeah,
audio's good.
Roboting?
We talked about Stephen Miller. Okay, so Steve Witkoff
We good?
has been made special envoy to the Middle East. He's
No, I don't want your...
Zionist Jew. That's a slap in the face to people.
What did you say?
Who?
Steve Witkoff.
Oh,
made
Steve Witkoff. He's extremely...
Special envoy to the Middle East.
He is very sketchy. I believe that Steve Witkoff had some connection to 9/11. if
Okay,
I'm not
why
mistaken.
would he do this if it wasn't a kickback to AIPAC?
No, that's what it seems.
That's politics.
You're never
But
going to
it's
get
They've
everything.
so
seen
gross.
Trump dance. They like Trump's dance. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They're entranced.
And
by
it's like really funny too.
In that
'Cause
video where he's like,
I know some DeSantards that are still on the DeSantis train. They're still like
Seriously?
freaking out about Trump.
that's
and
you guys though.
No. I mean, I
I'm
understand.
gonna wear my MAGA hat next week. Next podcast. Morning in America again.
Okay, what about
You
Mike
have to
Huckabee?
be optimistic.
No, you
have
don't.
to be.
Optimism is often a denial of
Mike
reality.
Huckabee's awesome.
No,
It is.
no.
I'm not saying. I mean, I think that in the end we'll win.
Right.
I mean,
we will.
Trump's gonna make
when we're
us win.
dead.
So what?
But like, it's gonna be a struggle our entire lives.
It's going to be a struggle. Yeah, and it would suck if it wasn't.
No, it would
Trump's
be awesome.
gonna make us
I
win.
want to live a
Trump's
life
gonna-
of no suffering in the
This is
land
the difference between women and men.
of totally a land of milk and
We're
honey.
getting Schedule F. Here, bring up Trump's plan 55 on his website. Bring it up. Agenda 47.
Okay, hold on. Agenda47.com.
Can you bring it up or no?
47.com.
Look at Joe Biden. Look how his sunglasses there.
Is this working?
Maybe.
Is this it?
I
not
don't
it.
think that's the website.
What's
no.
the website? Hello?
Just look up Agenda 47.
Agenda 47.
When I think of the reaction to Trump winning this time, it reminds me of 2008 when Obama won. And you had all these nitwits in the street that said, "No,
Oh, that is exactly what we sound like.
that's you, Vince."
There it is. American history. End inflation. Make America affordable again. Make America the dominant energy producer in the world. By far. Stop outsourcing. Turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. Large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. Oh, that's another thing he was talking about was tariffs to replace the income tax.
And
Small
scheme of
wins.
things.
Getting rid of the income tax?
No, I mean that's definitely there's no way that's totally infeasible.
Keep men out of women's sports.
That's pretty feasible.
Yeah, you guys reading
That's
this?
you.
Yeah,
That's
you should buy a plane ticket. You can just front run it. That's great.
Okay, Cameron, do you know what the biggest exodus of immigrants, forcible or not, has been in United States history?
I do not, actually. That's a good question. I'm thinking it was Operation Wetback, but I don't know the numbers.
We're going to have Operation Wetback Part 2, and it's going to be
Yeah, awesome. I'm there for it.
glorious.
But 5 million people is insufficient. Like, that doesn't make a difference in my life at all.
It does if
You know,
they're
the
all
sad
from up
thing
here.
is you don't need reforms to do it. You just got to enforce the existing laws.
Right.
And that tells you everything you need to know, right? They're not going to be enforced.
But-
Where's the mechanism by which Trump is going to enforce
Okay,
that?
so let
right?
me
I
just
don't
float
see
this.
it.
Let me just float this out there. I'm going to float an idea, and I know that it's not what we want, but hear me out. It's going to be absolutely draconian and invasive surveillance that is going to penetrate every aspect of society with facial recognition technology. Right?
I hate this.
And every camera in the country can get wired into like Clearview AI, and anybody that comes up as not being a citizen.
I thought you were going to say not being white.
No, I don't care about that. You see, you're racist. You,
I thought that's what you were going to say. I don't believe that.
no. You can do a facial recognition, and
I
then
hate
if
this.
it comes up and they're
What-
not a citizen,
Episode
they can
1 is
immediately
getting you
deport.
banned by YouTube, by the way.
Oh, that's okay. I thought
I'm just
that-
saying, like, it's
Good
it's
luck.
Everybody
over.
says that. I had
think we
Joel
should-
Davis on.
We should keep the YouTube.
Emily
There's
Lucas.
money on YouTube. You
There's
can make
no
money on
I'm
there.
demonetized. I don't get super chats. There's no
You're
money
getting
to be
banned
made.
from YouTube. for
No,
sure.
I'm not. Emily Lucas didn't get me banned. Neither did Joel Davis. I'm a Fed. I cannot be banned.
I am not allowed on, like, the moment that like this your channel is getting banned.
I don't know. We'll see. That would be awesome. I'd actually be
Operation Wetback. Yeah, that was June 1954.
Really. How many people was it?
Eisenhower. Like 5 million.
Okay, we have to do better than that.
We have like
The
what 40
population-
million illegal.
Well,
They've
this
been
is
saying-
1954.
They've been saying 10 million since like 1993.
That's not true. It's like
Yeah,
There,
it's
40
there has
million.
to be 40 million. If there
It's
were fewer
gotta
than
be.
40 million, I would die of shock.
11 million crossed just under Biden alone.
And then how many
most of
people
them were allowed
are
to stay.
anchor babies? I'm talking about like doing
Right.
like a second generation first, I'm talking about a lot of people here. Like if you had to be honest about the numbers of people, fine.
And that's without making distinction. I don't buy.
But what about their anchor babies? They have to go too.
Well, that's
So
what
they're
Trump said.
citizens?
He's going to stop birthright citizenship.
But what about the people that have already been grandfathered into birthright citizenship? That's millions and millions and millions.
Can't
of
do
people.
anything about that.
Yeah. That's a problem. People might get so angry.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily going to bring about
It's
justice.
never going to happen.
I'm not as worried about justice. Well, I am worried about justice, but I'm more worried about.
See, I mean, and this is where maybe you and we're going to have our fun. We'll disagree. I'm not like a rate.
Are you going to sit
Yeah, this
here
is
and tell
turning
me
into
you're not?
this is turning into a Wignat podcast.
Yeah.
That-
Is actually, I mean, I'm Catholic. I think that, the situation in this country has been absolutely shitty for everyone, not just
Could
white
we not let this turn into like a Wignat podcast?
I don't wanna be a
please?
It's too late.
Yeah.
It's-
No. This country has been shitty for everyone, regardless of your skin color.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think that the policies and the stuff that I want to see is not designed to benefit one racial group over another.
Your proposed policies.
What I would like to see happen in government anyway, and that might be policies that's going to.
Okay, let's take race out
I mean,
of it.
rule of law, help everybody.
I want founding stock Americans, people that arrived here before about 1840.
Yeah, it's
and,
not me.
And their descendants. Then you can GTFO.
That's
Yeah, I'm
Definitely not
gonna,
me either.
I'm gonna fuck these people.
That's Cameron, though.
I'm,
Yeah, I can
I'm
tell it's
Irish.
Cameron.
I'm Irish. We came
Look
over.
at his physiognomy.
We came over after the famine.
half
I want
Italian.
real Americans to get preferential treatment.
You know what I want? I want when I come home from flying
The
overseas.
Italians built this country.
When I come home from flying overseas, I want a special place where citizens can get in line and it says "Welcome home." Every time I go abroad, and you go to different right on in, and everybody else has to go through a different set of security protocols. When you come to America, everybody goes through the same gate, and if you're illegal, usually you go to the front of the line. There's no welcome home American.
Okay.
There's no welcome
Cameron's
back.
people might have founded this country, but Italians
We built it.
built
It's
the
ours.
country. Italians
One
and Irish
thing-
built the country.
One thing I should note is you guys all live together, right? More or less.
I mean,
Yeah,
not in the
You're-
same,
same
house.
Not in the same.
We're going to
You're
be
in
starting
a-
our
you're
sitcom
in a
next week,
similar-
okay?
You're all living in the same bedroom, right? Basically. How did that happen? Because Vince is Italian, right? I guess the two on the end are Italian. Rebecca,
Italian
you're
and
founding
Irish, yeah.
stock, so am I. But you guys are basically Americans.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at demographic numbers across the country, what do you observe? You observe that people self-segregate.
Yep.
Now,
And that's
they don't
healthy. That's
self-segregate. Correct. It's natural, but they don't self-segregate according to Polish or Italian neighborhoods. There is some of that, but for the most part, the white population in the United States has homogenized. Okay.
Yep.
That is not true for the other groups.
It's true.
Now, Why is that important? It's important because these other groups are already adopting political interests that are separate and distinct from ours. That means that if you have an economic crisis, if you have a shortage of resources, if all of a sudden there's political competition, you're going to see friction between these various groups.
Yeah.
Now, there's a mirage that Trump has created to some degree that somehow you can thread the needle and you can align all of these groups together. But that's an illusion, right? Ultimately, the people that support Donald Trump are the people on this podcast, and they form the homogeneity that is the United States. The rest of these groups have separate and distinct interests, and those interests will conflict if we go into a serious crisis, which is exactly where I think we're headed.
That makes me want to stand up and cheer. That is exactly right. We all need to keep that in mind, that other racial groups are not holding the ideology of founding stock Americans with the same reverence in their hearts that we are, nor are people even capable of doing that. I believe it is.
I think that there's degrees of that even with white people. I mean, I have met white people that like hold the Constitution in such
I
fucking
think what
contempt.
Cameron's saying is like
Liberal white women,
the
especially.
people that voted for Trump were white people, right? And
True.
A lot of the like non-white people, especially the illegal immigrants, didn't want to see Trump win because they want to bring more of their people in.
Right.
They want to bring more of their family in.
Well, then how do you explain the 35% boost in Hispanic votes?
Look, this
I don't know if it was
well
35%. He got like 45%.
35%. That's all I've been hearing about all
He
week.
did get a lot of Hispanic voters, but it was 45%. It got about the same that George Bush
Yeah, it's
got.
because of his machismo and because they think he bangs hot chicks, and that's why they voted for him.
Well, I mean, also I think
Well,
that
And it was
It's
only
not-
the
it's-
Hispanic men who voted for him.
Hispanic
the
men-
answer to your question, Dave, is that the economy's bad. It's bad, okay? And everybody was more or less unified in kicking out somebody that was self-evidently disqualified from running for office. Look, Kamala Harris was a terrible candidate,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
She had no real plan, and she was representing an old man who ran the country into the ground. Everybody agreed with that,
Yeah.
okay? So that's more or less why people coalesce behind Donald Trump. I do think that there is some likability as well. That being said, the data on these demographic differences is unassailable. There was a piece that was done recently by a Substack everybody should read called Arctotherium, and it evaluated big tech, white Americans, okay? Well, guess what? Asian Americans who have a very high per capita income, in some cases higher than average white Americans, okay? Their views on free speech, their views on the Constitution are seismically different, closely ties to their home countries of
yeah.
origin.
Yes.
So what I'm suggesting again is that ultimately these road as things get worse economically, which I think we all agree is where we're headed.
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, if you think about how different the demographics are that are being brought in, how could they ever integrate in a meaningful way? I mean, look at what we were talking about earlier. Irish and Italians, it was a huge problem. I mean, there were signs on pubs, no Irish,
Irish need to
Irish.
play. I know.
I don't know
no
if that's
Italian.
actually true.
No, hey, don't get me started.
There
my
was a
my
lot
people
of-
was discriminated against, buddy. I was oppressed.
I
Mr.
don't think
O'Reilly.
that's actually true. The Irish built this country. The Italians built
Italians.
this country.
You're telling me there was no discrimination against Irish and Italian?
There was a lot of
There
it.
was a lot
You gotta
of it.
go watch the Cabrini movie, right? The Cabrini movie is pretty open about it.
But if we couldn't get along
The Wasps hated Catholics.
as English,
By the way, we're all
Irish,
But see the
and
but see the
Italians.
differences of what Cameron's talking about is you had Italian neighborhoods, you had Irish neighborhoods, but then you did have intercommerce, right? You had them,
Well, but they were
doing
all-
business with each other. Whereas, like right now, Sam Huntington talks about this actually in his book. You've just got these enclaves that people are ushered into. People come into this country, they go into these enclaves, they never have to learn to speak English, they never have to they basically never have to do business outside of their their group, and they do over 50% against like criminalizing hate speech. There's a few other things there. It's been a while since I went over this, but yeah, I mean their interests are definitely different.
My point is, if there was so much dissent between people genetically similar, like the Irish and the Italians and the English, there's so much dissent between these three groups, then why would anybody think that a multicultural society where there are Africans, Asians, all in their own enclaves, they're ever going to create a functional society? It's madness. And that's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
And there's no
Yeah.
unringing this bell.
That's right. And the other thing to remember is people have it backwards, right? They think that as soon as you flood a certain country with a critical mass of people, then you have necessitated diversity, that you have forced multiculturalism, and that's irreversible. First of all, history shows otherwise. If you look at the Balkans, if you look at the Middle East, if you look at South Asia, there are countless examples of peoples that have been forced together and then they segregate.
Yep.
And the reason for that is simple. It's natural. Groups ultimately become more conscious the more the society becomes diverse. And we see this in the United States. Go to New England, where there's barely any immigrants. You're going to find people that are flagrantly leftist. Go to areas where they're everywhere. All of a sudden, opinions change very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this is happening all over Europe, in Germany, in France, in England,
yep.
where people have been either overtly pro-immigration or they didn't want to say anything about it. Now they've all switched. Why? Because you've hit a critical mass and that native-born population feels threatened. This is the entire motivation for Donald Trump 2016. Yeah. The issue is he didn't complete the mission. And so now that sense of fear, and it is fear on the one hand and nationalism on the other, is even stronger today than it was then.
Absolutely.
Everything he did was basically taken away by executive order. Day one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, then why are we relying on him with so much hope?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, he better do something. He's got everything now, so no excuses.
All right, so this is like your last hope. What are you guys going to do after this when he inevitably fails you in just miserably? He's going to fail you miserably.
Smoke more hopium.
What am I supposed to do with you? Cameron, be the voice of reason here. We need to be thinking about ways that we can all get rich. That's really what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
Well, look,
go to the backlash.net /donate.
Well, I'm gonna run. I'm old enough now.
You want to run against? To go against me 2 years from now? I was thinking about running for governor again.
Look, if you were to go back, if you were to go back to 1960, okay, and we get in a time machine, we go back to 1960. There was a comedian, I forget his name. He was talking about Barack Obama. He said, "I get in it, nobody believes me." Okay, if you go back to 1960 and you were to tell everybody that here we are sitting we're here in 2024, that the future in 10 years looks radically different than where we are today.
Right.
Yes, nobody anticipated that Donald Trump would be president in 2016. I know the sentimentality of Americans that thought, now we've moved beyond race. All of a sudden, we have been, since Obama, an entire inversion of that. That's where we're headed. This sentiment that backed Trump was never about Trump. It's something different. It's what animates our podcast. It's only going to get stronger, even if he fails, and especially if he fails.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's reassuring. I mean, that's the ultimate white pill, right? No matter how bad things get, that will be the resurrection of this Western spirit. And I think that is a positive development. I'm on a different kind of hopium, you guys.
Yeah, it's a different kind of hopium. The crash before the beginning.
Well, I mean, what I'm most afraid of is
something rises from the ashes.
I do a lot of driving within the country. I've driven across the country many times over the last few years, and I'm seeing these just absolutely depressed, nearly third world, predominantly white rural towns. And I also did a lot of driving like this when I was a child, and I don't remember seeing poverty in these towns in the same way.
You should see Philadelphia.
I heard it's terrible. I heard it's just awful. And I'm really worried about having this slow decline into third world status. Like, that frightens me more than some kind of cataclysmic economic event.
No, you would hope for a cataclysmic economic event.
Well, maybe
that people
not.
would wake up and change what they're doing.
But it's this slow descent that I find very troubling. Why do you think that is, Cameron? Do you think it would be better if we had a slow descent into this, or if it was some sort of precipitating period of time?
No, in 2014. So Merkel time, basically what she should have said is, no, we'll take a cert, but instead she flooded the whole country with these people. And now AFD, which is decidedly against her agenda and anti-immigration, if you will, they're in the driver's seat to take power in Germany. And that's going to happen. Okay. So no, we need a sharp awakening. I think we're going to get it, but we're going to get it this time because we're facing a very serious economic crisis. I maybe you guys don't know it as much because you're not seeing all the places I go. People are hurting across the United States. I mean, it's just devastating. And that is going to force a lot of this action that we haven't done anything about for a long time. So I'm with Dave. I think we're going to get it. And I think we're going to wake up and start cleaning up the mess.
In our lifetimes?
What does that look like?
Yeah, what does that look like?
The first thing it looks like is building a new party. What is the principal failure of Donald Trump? I mean, let's just look mechanically. Where's his staffing organization? He has to revert to the Republican Party, which is corrupt and broken, right? And I know people have said repeatedly to me for the last 15 years, it can't be done. That's nonsense. Of course it can be done. And it's easier to do it today than ever before because we have Twitter, because we have platforms like this to build it, because we have influencers and personalities to drive it. We just have to abandon the two-party system. We have to recognize that that is broken. It's not going to deliver what we want. And that's what ultimately Donald Trump is dealing with, right? He had an opportunity in 2016 to basically walk away from the Republican Party. So did Pat Buchanan before him. In each case, failing to do so subverted and undermined his effort. That's what we got to do. We've got to build a new party. And when this depression happens, what it's going to do is it's going to destroy the credibility of the Republicans and the Democrats. They're both going to go down. And they both should go down for this because it's their fault. So that's the key. We got to build a new party. We need a true American first party. And I think, like I said, I think that's where we're headed. That's what we're going to build.
Do you
If anyone,
do you think that we're just living in Groundhog Day here?
Yes.
Yes.
To a certain degree.
Yes,
I mean, like
we are.
you can look at what was I just going to pull up? I was going to pull up the National Union for Social Justice. Do you guys know about that? That was Father Coughlin's party.
yeah.
Father Coughlin.
Father Coughlin, I believe, initially campaigned for FDR in 33, was very upset with the policies he implemented, and then in what year was it? Was it 36? In the 30s, and you know, it's kind of like a nightmare though. But like when you go back and you look at the story of Father Coughlin and Charles Lindbergh and Henry Ford and where they were, where the country's consciousness was at, and then what happened after the fact. There's the similarities between then and today are so unbelievably striking, and I hate to have the view of it that nothing ever happens. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Nothing ever
But I
happens.
kind of feel like that.
Yeah, but today we have, as I said, we have Twitter. We
True.
have platforms like this. Okay, that is a game changer. A guy who could start a new party immediately is Elon Musk. No doubt about it. He's got the capital to do it. He's got the infrastructure to do it.
And I mean,
it's the last.
I was going to say, do we know what exactly would even need to happen? And maybe I shouldn't be opening this can of worms this late in the podcast, but like, you know, we've got the Constitution Party, and I believe that they are allowed to list a presidential candidate in 35 states, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not all 50. And there were issues with that even when like William Dudley Pelley ran for president in what year was that?
Oh no.
1930s or something like that. There have been issues like that. So like you'd have ballot access issues. You'd have to get central committees set up in every fucking county, in every state, all across the country. I don't know. I think it's much easier, or would be a better play, to just teach people how to engage with the Republican Party at the local level and clean it up. Because I think that's how it would be most
It'd be easier to
plausible.
start-
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
Well, if anyone could have started a new party, it would have been Trump.
Would have been Trump. Yep.
But the two-party system,
Again,
it
look,
didn't last
if
as long
you
as we
go-
think. Sorry, Cameron, go ahead.
If you go back to the revolt against McCarthy, so you guys remember McCarthy was nominated to be the speaker, and then Matt Gaetz and a handful of Republicans basically said, no, we don't support this guy, and they held up his nomination. Now, ultimately, he got in there. But you have to, for a moment, don't fall into the trap of thinking just in terms of America. If you look at Europe, they form new parties all the time. You don't to be an effective third party. You don't have to take power necessarily. You just need swing votes. You need some crucial influence on the direction that the government's going in, and then you can build on that. That's what we've got to start with. What Gates and company should have done is they should have started a new both parties, right? Because you're the swing vote. That's how it begins. But nobody's thinking like that. If this economic disaster occurs, because it's going to completely destroy both parties, the way that Hoover and the Republican Party were destroyed by the Depression. That's what's going to happen.
Right. And then people can no longer ignore the realities of their daily lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's happening historically illiterate.
Yeah.
And that is creating all sorts of problems because people do not understand historical cycles. They think that the two-party system is how it always was, which is untrue. They don't understand what government in Europe is like. And so it makes it seem like our possibilities are afford our necessities. It's not going to matter how historically illiterate everybody is. Oh, yeah.
I do. But again, bear in mind, look, this is not just about economics either. MS-13 is a very dangerous, organized cartel, okay? And they're killing people in the United States. There's a very human aspect to what's happening because of immigration. As I said, Trump has promised to take action on this. If he doesn't deliver, there's going to be backlash. And ultimately, that backlash is going to organize itself. We're just not there. We're just not there yet. But I think we're close. We're getting much closer.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Right. Well, do we have any super chats, or we don't have that set up yet? We don't have an entropy yet.
To let you guys know, I am fully demonetized on YouTube. I'm only streaming this on YouTube to get this out to my platform. I have it linked to the live chat, which is going to be banned after this.
Probably.
If you want to donate, please go to our website, thebacklash.net. That will give you some donation links.
Can we read super chats from there or no?
I don't have super chat on YouTube.
We don't have it. It's the first episode.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
What about Rumble?
We'll figure it out.
Do we have Rumble chats or whatever?
I don't know.
Can you look at them?
No idea.
Next time.
Yeah,
things will go better,
let's try to figure something out to where we can read on our website, right? Is it possible? Or we use Entropy?
Yeah, we'll continue to build it out. If anybody has any,
I do need some adrenaline. Yeah, I've been sick. It's been bad.
Gotta get you some Red
Next
Bull.
week is going to be better.
Honestly, I'm amazed that we made this happen, all things considered.
Unbelievable. Next stop, Lindell TV.
Yeah, really.
Let's go.
Well, thank you so much for
Mike
joining
Lindell,
us, you guys.
1488 for his pillows.
That is true. I thought that was fake,
MyPillow.com.
but it is real. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this comes along and becomes part of people's Thursday night routine. I mean, that's really what I want.
Could be fun. I think it's
going to be fun.
I think it's going to be an interesting 4 years to spend with you guys, talking and
we got
nitpicking.
a lot of people that we could bring in IRL in studio.
IRL, yeah.
Yeah.
And
we could bring
you got to tell us who you want to see. I want to see
Bronat.
No, I want to see like Max Kaiser, Scott Ritter. I want to get some good guys on here to.
Well, I'm just talking about
kinda keep us
locally.
appraised.
There's a lot of people.
There are a lot of people locally.
Brother Nathaniel.
Owen Benjamin.
Owen Benjamin.
Owen Benjamin.
Yeah.
Trying to think of who else.